Hello all, this is Pius. So today is day 4th for daily answer writing program for history optional. And let's see the question of today. So the today's question was, Dharmashastras have been a crucial source of understanding the social, religious and legal norms of ancient India. Discuss the significance of Dharmashastras as a source of reconstructing early Indian history, particularly in relation to social order and legal traditions. What are the limitations of using these texts as historical sources? Now, this particular question is based on one of the very important Smriti literatures, that is basically Dharmashastras. Frankly speaking, UPSC hasn't asked a single question directly on Dharmashastras. So indirectly they have asked question on Dharmashastras. But then whatsoever literature, whatsoever Brahminical sources are present, among them they have definitely asked so many questions on the other sort of literature such as Vedas, then the Itihasas or Puranas, or let's say epics. But they haven't asked a single question directly on Dharmashastras. But then I believe that as far as Dharmashastra is concerned, now there is a great possibility of asking any question, and they in future you might find a question from Dharmashastras, and that's how you should prepare this particular topic also in a pretty well manner, that if in future any question is coming, in that case you'll be able to answer this question. Now when it comes to Dharmashastra, let's first understand what is Dharmashastra. As I told you in the beginning, Dharmashastra is very much part of the Smriti literature, and among the Smriti literature, as I told you, along with the epics and Puranas, there is greater possibility of question from this topic also. Dharmashastra is not one text. Rather, Dharmashastra is basically the combination of multiple texts, and precisely speaking, there are three different kind of literature which are falling in the category of Dharmashastras. So first, which is known as Sutra literature, that can be also called as Dharmashastras. Within the Dharma Sutra, you find Griha Sutra, Srot Sutra and Sulva Sutra. Then it comes to Smriti literature, and in Smriti literature which are considered to be a sort of legal treatise or text on the various legal systems or the law systems, and that includes so many Smritis such as Manu Smriti, Narad Smriti, Katyayana Smriti, Brihaspati Smriti and so on, and these Smritis were developed in a longer period. And the third important literature which falls in the category of Dharmashastra, that's basically Nibandhas or Britis. Nibandhas or Britis. Now what are these Nibandhas and Britis? Basically these are various commentaries or digest on various Smritis, because there was large amount of differences, or there was great differences that could be noticed among the Smritis, and that's how to reconcile all these different sort of legal system. The Smriti, the commentaries were being written on them, they were falling in this particular category. So combinedly all three are ultimately giving information or ultimately being called as Dharmashastras. Now the question is saying ki how come the Dharmashastra is helping to reconstruct the ancient India. As you can see that in there are two parts, though the question had been stretched too long, but then the core content of the question is that how come the Dharmashastra is helping to reconstruct the history of ancient India with respect to society, religion and legal norms, and the second part is asking you about the limitations. So when it comes to writing about this answer, so in the introduction you'll be writing what is Dharmashastra and what are the various literature which are falling in this category. And then one more point that you should include here, that point not precisely in form of point, basically in the introduction you need to include that actually the development of Dharmashastra could be noticed from 1st century BCE to 10th century or 11th century CE. So in a very long period, ultimately you find the composition and compilation of this literature. Now in the first part of the answer, he will be writing about the various things what they had been targeting in their answer, or what they had been conveying, what they have been conveying basically in their in their writing. So the first is about the social structure. Let me tell you very frankly that when it comes to Dharmashastra, they are giving a somehow better picture of the society of that period of time. When it comes to the Vedas and Aranyakas, Upanishads and to a certain extent Brahmanas also, more or less they have been presenting a sort of very ideal picture. On the other hand, it is believed by the historians that the Dharmashastras are presenting or giving the real picture of the society at that point of time. This is the reason because of what in Dharmashastra you can find the various rules and regulations have been discussed precisely, and as far as the information which are falling in the category of social information, there we can talk about the information related to varna or the caste system, the duties which were assigned to various varnas, the rigid caste hierarchies, right, and most importantly the social stratification which was evolving over the period. So it was not there since beginning, rather it was evolving over the period, and you can find a very good picture of this evolution of the social hierarchy in through the varna system, through the caste system, and that we understand through this way. Apart from this, it is even providing information on ashram system, the way there were 4 goals or the 4 stages of life that became one of the most important, let's say, goal of anybody's life. That is also we find the information related to that. Then it comes to religious norms and the practices. So basically the Dharmashastra, since it is called as Dharmashastra, and the Dharma literally means that actually how to lead your life, and that's how it was providing information even on basically the various religious rituals and the practices. Apart from that, we can say ki as far as this purity laws are there, which are gradually becoming very important. Now Dharmashastra is a real text which is giving you the insight on the purity, that how to maintain the purity of somebody, and then this is how it does talk about a very intricate relationship between religion and daily life. So how this religion was applicable in daily life, and how this religion influenced both the personal and social behavior of the people, that we understand through this. Then it comes to the most important part, that is the legal tradition. So smritis, precisely to a certain extent we can keep the Dharmasūtras also, but then more precisely we can say smritis are giving us very relevant content on the civil, criminal and family laws. So whatsoever complications were there in the society, which was day by day increasing. Why? Because the society was becoming complex, and that's how there was more need of the legal system was felt, and the smritis had been precisely targeting on this, and that's how they had been providing information on these things also. So basically various laws related to basically the marriage, then inheritance of property, then the property rights, then the punishment for the various crimes, all these things have been precisely discussed in the smritis, and that's how we can say as far as these legal procedures are concerned, and then trials, the witness protocols, the judgments, right, the various values which should be there, the way the judiciary was very much or very closely associated with the religious identity, with the varna identity. So all those things we can understand through the smritis precisely. Then it comes to status of women. Again, this is part of part of social information. This is very much part of the legal system also, where it is precisely dealing with the status of women. Why? Because it deals with various sort of legal provisions pertaining to women, such as their right about inheriting the property, the concept of Sridhana, their right to marry somebody outside of the family or outside of the varna after the death of husband, what exactly they were supposed to do, what were the provisions for the separation from their husbands. So all those minute details have been discussed in Dharmashastras, and that clearly conveys that the status of women was drastically getting down over the period. Apart from that, we can talk about some sort of economic insight we also get, because some legal system pertaining to the business and then various trade relationships are also being discussed, and that's how we can say it is even providing information about these things also, correct? But then at the same time, we should also keep in mind certain limitations also. Now when it comes to limitation, the biggest limitation with the Dharmashastra, that it is basically prescriptive in nature, not descriptive. Now what's the difference between prescriptive and descriptive? Prescriptive means they believe that okay, the society should be like this, and by considering a very ideal society, now they are giving all these ideas in a form of prescription. So they are not somehow presenting the real society, rather a sort of imaginary society is also is one of the most problematic area for this. Okay, then it comes to another important problem is the regional variation. The way I was telling you that there were so many smritis written down or composed and compiled in different time periods in different regions also, and the differences in the legal system can be noticed, and this is the reason because of what? In the early medieval period, now there were 2 common legal systems got developed. These are known as Dayabhag and Mitakshara. So there was so much differences in the legal system, that it was like, this need was felt that now ultimately some sort of simplification is needed, and that's how the various legal traditions were ultimately divided into two flows, or let's say two set of ideas. These are known as Daibhag and Mitakchara. Okay, so that regional variation is also there. Time gap, I have already discussed that they were composed and compiled in a different, in a longer period, and that's how this time gap has been creating problem. Why? Because you cannot treat the society in every period in the similar fashion, and that's how it remains. Brahminical biases, as I told you that the legal system was very closely associated with the Varna identity, and that's the reason because of what Brahminical biases could be noticed. Exclusion of the subaltern voices. Now you do not find that anywhere the subaltern voices were included, such as how the Sudras had been taking the various laws which were prescribed, which were prescribed for them. So that's how it is just presenting one sort of view, that was the Brahminical view. So apart from that, we can talk about lack of historical chronology. It has nothing to do with the chronology, and that's why it is not dealing with the content in a very chronological manner. Rather, it is in a very scattered format. You can find the content over here. Okay, and then the way I did tell you that mostly they have been focusing on the ideal sort of stuff. So this is how we can talk about certain limitations also. So now after writing these two parts, you need to come basically to the conclusion. Now in the conclusion, you can mention about couple of scholars, those who have been evaluating Dharmashastra as a source of history, and among them there are three scholars precisely I'll mention, and they are very important. The first one is P.V. Kane, and in fact this person has written the book called as History of Dharmashastra, and there he finds the Dharmashastra as a very valuable source, specifically when it comes to understanding the legal and social organization in ancient India. And he writes that it is not just a religious text, but it is a guide to understand the Indian civilization. So for him it's a very beautiful source. Then it comes to another great scholar, that's called as Patrick Olivelle, and he believes that this book is very special. Why? Because it is giving us a practical reality of the period rather than the very ideal version, though it remains a limitation, but yet this is his argument. And apart from that, there was one more scholar that's called as Johann Buhler, and he emphasized the Dharmashastra as a very sophisticated legal treatise, and that's how he says that in order to understand the society, these legal texts do provide us very good information, and that's how they must be used as a valuable information. So that's how you can end the answer by saying okay, this is a very important text in order to understand the various development, particularly related to religion, society, to a certain extent economy, status of women, and economy and polity also. And in fact, if they are again juxtaposed with the other information, because by that time there were so many other informations were also there, other sources were also there, in that case they could be proved as a very valuable source of information, right? That's all about this answer. Thank you very much.